Welcome home, Cojourners. I'm glad you're here for another episode. Dr. Thema, licensed psychologist, ordained minister, and sacred artist, here to help facilitate your journey back home to yourself. We will start this week with a reading from Debbie Brown's new book, Living in Wisdom. And this is an excerpt from page 278. Take root here. Deepen. Then expand the potential and possibility that is your life. Unfurl. Be patient with yourself. Stay loyal to your process. Become consistent in your practice. Open your heart to God. Devote time to your health. Nourish your joy. Trust your intuition. Freedom will come. It will heal. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Debbie, for this powerful book, A Path to Embodying Your Authentic Self, Embracing Grief, and Developing Self-Mastery. What a beautiful, beautiful collection, Living in Wisdom. So today we're going to focus on resolving conflict. Resolving conflict. So we often have ruptures, disconnections, misalignments with other people. Those disagreements can be small and minor and easily able to release and move on. And they can also be life-altering. They can be challenging. They can cause us to have to remake our relationships and sometimes remake our entire lives. So it's important as you're thinking about coming home to yourself and staying connected to your authentic truth to consider the ways in which you will handle disagreements, conflicts, ruptures, drama, disconnections. The way we handle those pivotal moments in our lives can really create detours for us, can dig us into a hole, can result in us going our separate ways. It can result in us tightening and strengthening our bond. But as we resolve the conflict from that homecoming perspective, we want to ensure that we are being guided by truth, by honesty, so that we're operating in integrity and making decisions that reflect our values and that create in this moment with the mindset of what I am trying to make of my life, that the decisions I make on today can affect my tomorrow. So I want to be intentional, mindful, soulful about the conflicts I am facing. So there are different levels of conflict and different types of conflict. Sometimes there is workplace conflict. It may be with coworkers. It may be with someone you supervise or someone who supervises you. The disagreement may be about the goal, the purpose, or the aim, or the disagreement can be about the process. Whose role is what? Whose responsibility is what? And how we see the larger picture and how we see each other. We also can have conflicts in our friendship circles, conflict with family members, conflict with romantic partners. Part of being human, and really all living beings, have the potential for disconnection or conflict. I want to start by saying where there is conflict, the gift of that moment often is that people are showing up with honesty. When we are pretending or suppressing our opinions, our ideas, our emotions for the sake of agreement, then we don't have real relationship. right? So in order to have a disconnection or a disagreement, it means those who are involved feel safe enough to express a different perspective, a different need, a different want, a different experience. And so there is a gift in that. I hope you want the kind of authentic friendship, family connection, even work environment where different perspectives can be shared. We end up in a place where we are not growing or learning or connecting if everyone is following a script or if everyone is saying what they think the other person wants to hear, even if it is not their truth. Yes? So when you find yourself with this disconnection, you can first appreciate that people are revealing themselves or revealing an aspect of themselves, and that you also are revealing an aspect of yourself. So, in those moments, there are really different pathways you can take. One pathway is avoidance. So you see the conflict, you see the disagreement, you see the disruption, and you can choose to not engage. Now, sometimes that can be a wise choice. It may be a wise choice if you are dealing with someone who likes to create drama. It can be a wise choice if someone is trying to bait you into a debate, bait you into an argument. We see that often in social media where people can come on your page and just raise a counter argument for the sake of trying to engage you, even though you already have a sense they're not open to other ideas or perspectives. So then you can say to yourself, is it worth my time and energy perhaps to go back and forth with a stranger? Or is it worth my time and energy if I'm already clear that we need to agree to disagree, right? That you're not going to change my mind and I'm not going to change your mind. So we can like skip the drama of it all and say, I'm just going to continue on my way. I'm going to continue on my day. I'm not going to engage. Now, that may be with strangers, but there may also be times when we do that with family or friends. If you know someone well and you know that they're not being themselves, that something is going on with them and they seem to be more irritable, more impatient, then I may choose to not address something that's stirring up in this moment because perhaps I believe that it is temporary, that I feel it's rooted in something else, that I don't feel it's the truth of the person, it's where they are in this moment. And so, out of grace, I may just release it. And, perhaps if it continues, then I can address it. But for now, I may feel like I'm just going to let it be, going to let it ride and trust what I know of this person, that it's not personal, that this is their own stuff. And I'm going to kind of let that tide come in and let that come out and trust that they're going to show up in a better way, a more healthy way. So I invite you to consider, what are the times that you have avoided conflict, avoided engaging in conflict, and you feel good about the decision? You feel like it was the healthy thing to do, that it was an act of either protecting your mental health or protecting the your peace. And I invite you to think about times when you have avoided conflict and you feel it was unhealthy. So when you replay it in your mind, you may feel like someone was disrespectful or dishonoring or deceptive, and I didn't say anything and I regret it, right? Well, we don't want to get stuck in regret, but my awareness of there are moments I wish I had handled differently. That's not to beat myself up, but it's to guide me going forward so that I can say, one, with that situation, there may be an opportunity for me to circle back and address it now. Or if it feels like it just was too long ago, or I don't see that person anymore, if I am ever confronted with a similar situation, then I can give myself permission to change my approach, to change my style, to change what I would say or do so that I can honor myself, honor my growth, and honor my process, right? So, avoidance, sometimes an important strategy, a helpful strategy, and sometimes we may use it and wish we had addressed things more directly. Another approach when we are facing conflict is sometimes, you know, we are very intentional about trying to ensure the outcome we have in mind is what occurs. So I may see what my perspective is, what my goal is, what my aim is, and perhaps my coworker or my family member thinks wants a different outcome. There are moments where I may feel what I desire or what I need or what I think will be most effective. I may feel that this is one of those moments where I need to make the case. I need to make the argument. It's important enough to me that I don't want to just let it go. I may feel like there are consequences if a different approach is taken that may be detrimental. If it's in a business setting, I may feel if people go this other way, it's going to be disastrous for the company or for our department or for the project or for the greater good. And so, even though I'm aware there is conflict, that I will begin to move strategically in order to try to present the case for my perspective, right? And there will be times for you to do that. Also, in your family. In family life, there will be points of disagreement, and you may feel strongly about your point, whether it's a decision around parenting, a financial decision around budgeting, a decision about the safety of certain family members, the decision about whether to move or whether to stay where you are. And so when I feel an investment in the outcome, and as I reflect on, the other perspectives, I still feel very convinced that my perspective is important, that my perspective will be helpful, that my perspective will have a good result, then I will engage in trying to explain the reason why I think what I think. It may be from prior similar experiences. It may be that I have access to some information that either other people didn't know about or had not considered. And so, in those cases, again, whether it is professionally or personally, I decide there is a conflict and I don't want to just go along with this other proposal, but that I feel strongly that I need to stand my ground and also try to mobilize, motivate, inspire other people to see my perspective. So I invite you to think about times when you've done that, where you faced disagreement, where you faced people who had a different perspective. And there may be some times when you were able to convince people or persuade people to seeing the good in your idea. And you may feel very good about that. There may have been times where you tried to do that and still people made a different decision, but you may have a sense of peace because you say, well, at least, they can't say no one told them. Like I shared my idea, they just didn't want to accept it. And then there may also be times, again, when we think about I don't want to just frame it as regret, but a learned lesson. There may be times in your life where you can remember you argued a point that you wish you had let it go, that maybe what you were arguing for wasn't really worth the tension that was created, or maybe what you were arguing for actually wasn't the best option, and you wish you had listened more to other people's ideas. So it can go either way in terms of trying to push for a particular outcome. Sometimes that can be for the good for us and for others, and sometimes it can create more difficulty. So each of these situations we want to take on a case by case situation, a case by case circumstance to know there are times to do one approach and then there are times to do another approach. Another way we can handle conflict is with compromise. So with compromise, we try to ensure that everybody gets some of what they're looking for, right? So, because we disagree, neither of us is going to get everything we want, but we try to come to some middle ground. So when you hear people say, a win-win, that, you got a part of what you wanted and this person got, a part of what they wanted. I think of an example if a family is thinking about moving and one parent says, I don't want us to move because the kids will have to switch schools. And the other parent really wants to move because there's more job opportunities in this other city, right? So the compromise may be we'll let the kids finish out this school year, right? So we won't move them in the middle of the school year, or if they're, in a elementary or middle or high, that we'll wait for that time to complete and then we'll go, right? So you think about, what are the things that you desire, the outcomes you want, and what is it that the other person wants, and what would it look like for both of us to get something out of what we were wanting, right? So again, I invite you to reflect. Have you ever been in a circumstance where there was a win-win? To know that that's possible, right? Because sometimes we assume that the only outcome is winners and losers, right? So it becomes either I get everything I want and I'm happy and they're miserable, or they get everything they want and they're happy and I'm miserable. So, as we engage in relationship, when we are creative and are compassionate and are hearing each other, often we can come to some middle ground. Sometimes that's not possible, but there are times when it is. So thinking about compromise. Now, the compromise should never be erasing yourself or silencing yourself. Everyone should be heard, whether we're talking about in a work setting or in a family or friendship situation. We want to honor and hear the thoughts of everybody who is involved. Now, sometimes we will prioritize the other person. So there may be a conflict, and in some circumstances, you may decide it's more important to the other person than it is to me, or for a particular reason, I want to honor this person in this way. I want to give more space to their ideas or feelings in this situation. And, you consider, why that might be. So sometimes you may have a friend or family member who's been going through a hard time and you feel like, they need something good to happen for them. And for you, it's not that deep. You may have had a different preference, but whether it goes your way or not is not going to make a big difference. But for this person, it could be an important point of encouragement for them. It could really kind of revive them if they've been in a slump. And so we may decide, let's do it this other person's way. Sometimes we may choose to do it the other person's way if they are older or more experienced. So we may say, out of respect, I'll follow their lead. And then we could also sometimes do it the reverse. If you have an early career professional, if you have a new person there that you're trying to make room for them, and they have a different perspective, they want to try things a new way, and so we want to welcome and be open to the new. And so we may say, okay, let's, and not in a sarcastic way or a mean spirited way, like in a sincere way of wanting to give room, make space for another person. So each of us can probably think about times where we released it and let it be, what someone else wanted or desired. And there are times that you did that and you can feel good about that the person felt good about it, the situation turned out well. And then there may be times where you notice it's a pattern where perhaps you always do that. So, you never get to express your needs or wants. You are always accommodating other people, erasing yourself, silencing yourself, censoring yourself. And over time, that can create resentment. It can also create insecurity where you don't trust yourself or trust your own ideas. You think everyone else knows better than you, and not honoring ourselves. So there are times to be accommodating. There are times where, you want to honor or respect or make room for other people and to give them a priority on a particular issue. But when we think about relationship, friendship, family, romantic relationships, coworkers, we want there to be some sharing of appreciation, of value, of priority. And then we can also think about collaborating. So when we are doing consensus building, as opposed to you getting a little bit of what you want and me getting a little bit of what I want, we try to figure out how it can be a full win-win, where we are not just giving over to someone else, but that we engage in the longer process and sometimes more, emotional and intellectual labor of really working through it so that we can come to a common ground. We hear the different perspectives and then we create a solution where everybody's needs are addressed, where the different ideas are incorporated, and where we create something new. So the power in the room, the power in the relationship is more equal. So that kind of genuine working through takes time, but the end result can be something that everyone feels invested in and everyone feels a part of. So the ways in which you approach conflict can vary. You want to remain grounded in truth. You want to remain grounded in respect for yourself and respect for the other people. Sometimes it's helpful to have a mediator. There are times when it's hard for us to hear a different perspective. So whether that is a workplace mediator, another relative, a therapist, it can be helpful to bring in a third party if they're actually neutral and can help us come to common ground. It's also important for us to know ourselves emotionally, to be mindful about the way we express our emotions, and also to be tuned in to the feelings and thoughts of the other people involved instead of assuming that everyone thinks or feels as we do. But we really want to be respectful of that and intentional about honoring and being a safe space for the different people that are present. Along those lines, with clarity, that is often a requirement for us to have good communication. right? So in other words, if I feel strongly about something, it's not for me to say I don't care or I don't mind, right? Because then that's a double message. It's setting people up to think something is okay that is not okay. So we want to communicate clearly, respectfully, and then we also want to be listeners so that I'm not so committed to my idea that I can't hear other ideas. So I want to genuinely hear, like, what are the other concerns? What are the other perspectives? What are the other feelings? What are the other experiences that people have so that I can then, take that in and reflect on that, knowing like I'm not the only one in the relationship, in the friendship, or on the job who can have a good idea, right? So I may come in with a thought, but I also want to hear and learn from the other people who are present. So to communicate clearly, to really listen, and then to look for our common ground, to look for what is it we do agree on. Whether our goals, our values, what we are trying to create in this workplace or in this family or in this relationship, what is it we are trying to build? And if we can remember that and keep that in the center, then that will give us the grace we need to get through those moments of conflict and to heal those ruptures. I am excited that as you are growing and coming home to yourself, that you're thinking mindfully and soulfully about how to address the various conflicts in your life. I invite your soul to tell your heart, mind, body, and spirit, welcome home.